Monday is the 54th anniversary of the first Earth Day. Now, much has changed from that time, and I remember it because as an 18-year-old, I marched on the mall for cleaner air and water in that very first Earth Day. But today, there is a war to eliminate fossil fuels. The attention has shifted somewhat from just clean air and water to saving the planet. And I was struck by a piece that I read on the website, The Liberal Patriot, with the headline, "Why Democrats Will Become Energy Realists." Mike, many governments have rushed to embrace net zero emissions by 2050, but is that humanly possible, as pointed out by the challenges that are indicated in that article?
Is it possible? It's a long shot. I mean, I think everybody recognizes that it's a long shot. But I think, like with anything, if you're going to have a big goal, you've got to have a big goal. And to say, well, we're never going to get there, so we're not even going to try. And I think the reality is that we've got to be able to recognize the challenges that we're facing. We've got to recognize that it didn't take very long for us to actually get to this point from a climate perspective when we look at how, the introduction of fossil fuel historically. And so when we think about our ability to innovate and work our way out of the challenges we're facing, is it ultimately going to be net zero? I don't know. But if we don't actually put a target out there, we don't have a challenge that we're trying to achieve, we're never going to get there. And so I think as your article said, the place where most people are is some combination of these things solves a problem. And I think it's the same conversation we tend to have as it relates to transportation. Is it going to be transit? Is it going to be cars? Is it going to be roads? The reality is it's going to be some combination of all of those things used in a way that makes sense. But if you don't actually set some targets, I don't think you ever achieve great growth and innovation.
Well, I mean, that's clearly true. And targets are a wonderful thing. But it also, as pointed out in the article, you need to have 20 to 25% of your GDP dedicated to this proposition, and that much GDP has only been dedicated to any proposition in World War II, when there was a real threat, a physical threat to the United States, not a existential threat that is hard to quantify.
Look, the author of the article did a really good job of coming up with all the reasons that we couldn't do it. I give him credit for that. The challenge is if we take that energy and actually identify some of the ways that we can do it and work towards a common objective, I think that would be constructive. And I just, we talk about the divisiveness that's out there. We can spend a lot of time saying why we can't do something, or we can spend some time thinking about how we're going to try and achieve some objectives. And I thought the article, while it was well documented, spent a lot of time telling us why we couldn't do it.
Well, here, look, I don't want to dominate the conversation because I want to hear from Stacey in a second, but we are a fossil fuel based civilization.
Today, we weren't always. It's for the last 150 years.
The quality of life, our prosperity rests on the combustion of huge quantities of fossil fuels. And we can't ignore that fact. To say that we can go to wind and solar and hydro is, in the next 27 years is, well,
historically you're accurate. That's what we've built. That's what we've built to. That was the next step in our energy transformation. What's the next step in our energy transformation? We don't know, because that's looking prospectively, and we're spending a lot of time looking retrospectively and saying, well, this is where we are, and this is where how it got us here. You're right. That's what got us here. But what takes us to the next level?
Right. Okay. So I'll let you have that last word. I'm going to go to Stacey, and then I'll finish up. Stacey, the author points out that there is only 27 years remaining to accomplish these goals, and the goal of achieving net zero with a speed and scale of modalities would be historically unprecedented, absent, and this is the key point, drastically lowering our living standards and or radical social disruptions. Is it worth the price?
Casey, if this keeps up, we will not be celebrating Earth Day. We'll be celebrating Dearth Day, because there will be a scarcity of the energy products that we need to have a productive society and for people to live safely. And you've heard me mention this on your program before, and that is that one of the problems that I have, especially with the socialist, with the hardcore left, is that they want these big programs, they want them now. And so instead of beta testing things in certain areas of the country to see how they work, how they can be improved, what the issues are, they want to do a mandate across the entire country. And we're finding this is not working. And so you have to do this, I think, in steps where you have evidence-based solutions to these energy issues. You just don't go in and expect an entire industry like car manufacturers to change their product line and then find out that the vast majority of buyers out there they want a gas-powered car, or they want the hybrid car, not just purely electric. There are a multitude of collateral issues that are coming along with these cars that are not being addressed. One of them is that these cars, their batteries, when they catch on fire, they're very hard to extinguish. The batteries are so heavy, so dense, that the guardrails are not protective enough on our highways. We really need to take a big step back. No one is against clean air, clean water, but what we need to do is take incremental steps to implement these plans.
Well, thank you, Stacey. Mike, you look like you have one more thought on this.
Oh, no.
And I'll let you have the final word.
No, I think it's right. I think what Stacey said is right. We should take an evidence-based approach, and we should be learning along the way. And what I don't know is that necessarily has to be incremental. When you see transformational change, it requires you doing a number of things at one time and learning from that. And I think that's what we're seeing, and we'll get better as we proceed.
But I'd like to make one point.
Stacey, I'm going to cut you off because I'm going to take the last word. Mandates don't work. You have to let the market get to the point where people will accept the changes as they come along.